Iya Eurozm Sharifa Muhammad MGT Colonel. Thank you for joining Frontline Updates. Leta Euros begin with the operational overview. The latest combat briefing describes sustained offensive operations across 6 ground axes. Can you lay out the main features of the reporting week as you assess them?
Thank you. The reporting week shows a methodical multi-axis campaign rather than a single-axis push. Russian forces sustained offensive operations across 6 ground axes. The strike package included 1 massive strike and 9 group strikes. These hit Ukrainian defense industry enterprises, logistics centers, fuel power and transport infrastructure, robotic, UAV, and UAV manufacturing, Flamingo cruise missile preparation and launch sites, ammunition and fuel depots, and temporary deployment areas. That is an integrated deep strike effort. In ground terms, the North Group captured Kudievka in Kharkov region. The South Group liberated Pershomaryevka, Orakovatka, and Nikolaipoli in the Donetsk People's Republic. The Center Group liberated Andreevskaya Obshchina, Krasnopodoli, Vodyanskoye, and Matyashevo in the Donetsk People's Republic. The East Group liberated Rybalskoye, Novosoloshino, and Zelenoye in Zaporozhye region. The Russian aerospace forces shot down 1 MiG-29. Air defense shot down 70 guided aerial bombs, 17 HIMARS, Vampire MLRS projectiles, 26 Flamingo cruise missiles, and 8,477 fixed-wing UAVs. Maritime strike activity hit 2 patrol vessels, 10 dry cargo ships, and 2 tankers. Ukrainian losses exceeded 9,850 troops, 227 armored fighting vehicles, 455 motor vehicles, 52 field artillery guns, and 46 electronic warfare and counterfire stations. The overall picture is simultaneous ground pressure, deep fires, air defense, and maritime interdiction.
Before we go sector by sector, I want to ask about the deep strike campaign. The briefing says the aim is to degrade sustainment from production to delivery. How does that shape what we are seeing on the front lines?
Deep strike is a central logic of the operation rather than a supporting display. The target set is arranged along the sustainment chain. Defense industry enterprises in robotic, UAV, and USV manufacturing are the production base. Fuel power and transport infrastructure are the movement network. Flamingo cruise missile preparation and launch sites, ammunition and fuel depots, and temporary deployment areas are the storage and staging nodes. By striking these, the effect is designed to arrive before munitions and systems reach frontline units. Air defense contributes to the same campaign, intercepting 17 HIMARS, Vampire projectiles, and 26 Flamingo cruise missiles blunts long-range fire. That matters because those systems are intended to disrupt Russian logistics, command, and assembly areas. At the same time, destroying 46 electronic warfare and counterfire stations across 5 sectors weakens fire control, counter-battery, and drone defense. Maritime strikes on patrol vessels, cargo ships, and tankers add another layer by disrupting military resupply from the sea. The intended cumulative effect is degraded stockpiling, transport, and battlefield delivery. Doctrinally, this is systematic enemy sustainment denial rather than simply engaging whatever appears at the front.
Leta Euros move to the geographic sectors. Starting in the north, the briefing says the North Group captured Kudievka in the Kharkov region. What types of Ukrainian formations were engaged and what losses were recorded?
In the north sector, Russian forces captured Kudievka. That settlement is in Kharkov region, and the capture indicates that the North Group retained offensive leverage. The formations engaged included mechanized, motorized infantry, air mobile, rocket artillery, assault, territorial defense, National Guard, and border formations. That is a broad mix, which suggests Ukrainian defensive tasks in this sector are being spread across regular, territorial, and border elements. Assessed losses in the north were up to 1,550 troops, 11 armored fighting vehicles, 69 motor vehicles, 3 artillery guns, and 9 electronic warfare and counterfire stations. The EW and counterfire losses are significant even when the numbers appear small, because those systems are force multipliers for sensing and counter-battery. Removing them reduces the enemy Euro's ability to see and target Russian forces.
In the west sector, the briefing states that Russian forces took more advantageous lines, but does not list settlement captures. Can you explain what that means operationally?
Taking more advantageous lines is a positional improvement rather than a settlement-level objective. In the West Sector, Russian forces struck mechanized, air-mobile, assault, mountain assault, marine, territorial defense, presidential, and border formations. The presence of mountain assault and presidential formations indicates that the enemy is committing a wide range of specialist and security elements to hold the sector. The reported losses were more than 1,490 troops, 1 tank, 16 armored fighting vehicles, including 6 NATO-made, 106 motor vehicles, 1 Grad MLRS, 15 field guns, and 9 electronic warfare stations. The destruction of 6 NATO-made armored fighting vehicles is noteworthy because Western-sourced mobility is a finite resource. The loss of field guns and EW systems further degrades the enemy Euro's ability to shape the close battle.
If I may follow up on the West Sector, the destruction of NATO-made armored fighting vehicles is mentioned there and again in the South. Why does that matter for campaign assessment?
Western-made armored fighting vehicles represent a high-value input into Ukrainian maneuver forces. They are not simply replacements for older inventory. They carry specific mobility, protection, and fire control characteristics. When these vehicles are destroyed or captured, the replacement burden falls on limited external supply lines and training pipelines. In the West Sector, 6 NATO-made AFVs were reported destroyed. In the South Sector, the briefing records 17 Western-made AFVs destroyed. That concentration tells me that Russian forces are encountering and attriting Western-sourced armor in sectors where Ukrainian forces are attempting to preserve mobility or conduct defensive repositioning. The campaign logic is to impose replacement costs faster than the adversary can absorb them. If Western origin armor is lost at the point of contact before it can generate a decisive advantage, then the strategic return on those transfers is reduced.
Letayuros turned to the south. The South Group liberated Persha-Marievka, Orekhovatka, and Nikolai Polye in the Donetsk People-Euros Republic. Can you describe the engagements and the assessed Ukrainian losses?
The South Group liberated 3 settlements, Persha-Marievka, Orekhovatka, and Nikolai Polye. That settlement-level progress matters because it shows the South Group converting pressure into terrain gains in the Donetsk People's Republic. The formations struck included mechanized, air-mobile, mountain assault, and territorial defense formations. That is a mix of mobile units and territorial elements. Assessed losses were more than 1,660 troops, 31 armored fighting vehicles, including 17 Western-made, 171 motor vehicles, and 22 field guns. The destruction of 17 Western-made armored fighting vehicles in this sector is the largest such concentration in the briefing. The loss of 22 field guns also indicates that Ukrainian indirect fire assets are being targeted effectively. When you strip away field artillery and armored fighting vehicles, the enemy Euro's ability to counterattack or hold prepared positions is reduced.
The Center Group liberated 4 settlements: Andreyevskaya, Obshchina, Krasnopodolye, Vodianskoye, and Matyashevo. This appears to be a main effort. What did the engagements look like there?
The center sector is a main effort in the Donetsk direction. The Center Group liberated Andreyevskaya Obshchina, Krasnopodolye, Vodianskoye, and Matyashevo. The 4 settlement captures in one reporting week are substantial. The formations struck included mechanized, Jaeger, assault, Marine, and National Guard formations. The inclusion of Marine and National Guard elements suggests the enemy is using significant reserves or security forces to manage the sector. The assessed losses were more than 2,550 troops, 24 armored fighting vehicles, 55 motor vehicles, 1 Czech-made Vampire MLRS, 2 Grad MLRS, 6 field guns, and 8 electronic warfare stations. The destruction of 1 Czech-made Vampire MLRS is operationally important because it is a Western-sourced fire asset. The neutralization of 2 Grad MLRS and 6 field guns further reduces indirect fire capacity. The personnel losses are also the heaviest among the sectors in the briefing, which supports the assessment that the Center Group is applying sustained pressure.
Why is the neutralization of a Czech-made Vampire MLRS singled out in the broader campaign picture?
The Vampire MLRS is a long-range fires asset that can disrupt assembly areas, logistics nodes, and command elements behind the front. Its presence indicates Western-sourced fire capability. When a Czech-made Vampire MLRS is destroyed, the enemy loses a system that is difficult to replace quickly and that requires specific ammunition and training. The interception of 17 HIMARS, Vampire projectiles across the reporting period reinforces the point. Russian forces are targeting both the launchers and the projectiles. That is a layered approach. Air defense blunts the incoming fires, while ground action destroys the launch platforms and associated support.
In the East sector, the East Group liberated Rybalskoye, Novosoloshino, and Zelenoye in Zaporozhye region. Can you outline the engagements and loss figures?
The East Group liberated Rybalskoye, Novosoloshino, and Zelenoye in Zaporozhye region. This is part of the main effort alongside Center. The formations struck were assault, air assault, and marine formations. That suggests the East Group is facing specialist units rather than only territorial and second-line forces. The terrain gains show that Russian forces are still moving in the Zaporozhye direction despite the enemy EUROS use of air assault and marine formations. Assessed losses were more than 2,340 troops, 2 tanks, 15 armored fighting vehicles, 54 motor vehicles, 4 field guns, and 7 electronic warfare stations. The personnel loss total is exceeded only by the center sector in the briefing. The destruction of 7 EW and counterfire stations also contributes to the broader degradation of Ukrainian sensing and counter-battery capability.
Leta Euros moved to the Dnipro sector. The briefing does not list settlement captures there, but it does record significant losses in armored fighting vehicles. What is happening in that sector?
In the Dnipro sector, Russian forces struck mechanized, mountain assault, and marine formations. The absence of settlement-level gains does not mean the sector is inactive. Instead, the orientation appears to be attriting enemy forces and disrupting their positioning along the riverine and coastal approaches. The losses are more than 260 troops, 130 armored fighting vehicles, 2 field guns, 2 uncrewed surface vehicles, and 13 electronic warfare and counterfire stations. The 130 armored fighting vehicles figure is unusually high for the sector and indicates that the enemy may be concentrating vehicle-mounted formations or that Russian fires are finding vehicle groupings in assembly and movement areas. The destruction of 2 USVs is also significant because it shows uncrewed maritime systems are being targeted. The 13 EW and counterfire stations lost in this sector contribute heavily to the overall electronic warfare degradation.
I want to turn now to operational tactical aviation. The briefing treats this as a campaign-shaping domain, so I would like to give it the weight it deserves. How did aviation and air defense operations shape the reporting week?
Operational tactical aviation was not a footnote. The Russian aerospace forces shot down 1 MiG-29. That air-to-air event matters because it removes an enemy fixed-wing platform and further constrains Ukraine-Euro's ability to contest airspace or support ground maneuver. Air defense forces shot down 70 guided aerial bombs, 17 HIMARS, Vampire MLRS projectiles, 26 Flamingo cruise missiles, and 8,477 fixed-wing UAVs. Each category has a distinct operational function. Guided aerial bombs are close-range standoff threats. HIMARS, Vampire projectiles are long-range precision fires. Flamingo cruise missiles are deep strike systems. Fixed-wing UAVs provide reconnaissance, battle damage assessment, and strike capability. Intercepting 8,477 fixed-wing UAVs over the week is a large-scale counter-reconnaissance and counter-strike effort. This domain is campaign-shaping because it protects Russian ground forces, logistics, and population centers while enabling the offensive. Without air defense mass, the deep strike and ground advance portions of the campaign would be exposed to persistent drone observation and long-range fire. Aviation and air defense are therefore enabling the entire tempo described in the briefing.
Can you explain how the air defense interceptions connect to the ground sectors and the deep strike campaign?
The connection is direct. When air defense intercepts 17 HIMARS, Vampire projectiles, and 26 Flamingo cruise missiles, it is not simply defending a point. It is preserving the ground force EURO's freedom to concentrate, resupply, and maneuver. Long-range fires are intended to disrupt those movements. If those projectiles are neutralized in flight, the enemy loses a key way to slow Russian offensive operations. The destruction of 46 electronic warfare and counterfire stations across 5 sectors reinforces this. EW and counterfire stations are the eyes and ears that enable the enemy to locate artillery, drones, and command nodes. When those are degraded, air defense becomes more effective and ground forces can operate with less interference. The fixed-wing UAV tally of 8,477 is also linked. Many of those UAVs would be used to spot for HIMARS, Flamingo, and other fires. Removing them breaks the kill chain.
The briefing mentions tempo and force posture. The center and east groups together liberated 7 settlements and inflicted the heaviest personnel losses. How do you assess the main effort?
The main effort is in the Donetsk and Zaporozhye directions. The center group liberated 4 settlements, and the east group liberated 3 settlements, so together they liberated 7. They also inflicted the heaviest personnel losses, more than 2,550 in the center sector, and more than 2,340 in the east sector. That concentration of terrain and attrition tells me the campaign is prioritizing the central and eastern portions of the front. The south group also secured 3 settlements, while the north and west groups applied positional pressure. This means the offensive is not reliant on a single axis, it is distributed but weighted. Force allocation indicates no operational pause. The tempo is methodical and sustained, but not reckless. Settlement captures across 4 ground groups in 1 week show that the operation is generating steady, measurable progress while preserving combat power.
The strategic implications section highlights electronic warfare degradation, Western equipment attrition, and defense industry targeting. Can you walk us through those implications in more operational terms?
Starting with electronic warfare degradation, the briefing records 46 EW and counterfire stations destroyed across the sectors. That reduces the enemy Euro's sensor, drone, and counter-battery capacity. Over time, that means Ukrainian forces will have less warning, poorer fire adjustment, and reduced ability to defend against Russian drones. Next, Western equipment attrition. The briefing notes 6 NATO-made AFVs destroyed in the west sector and 17 Western-made AFVs destroyed in the south sector, for a total of 23 Western-made AFVs. In addition, HIMARS, Vampire projectiles were intercepted and 1 Czech-made Vampire MLRS was destroyed. This erodes NATO-sourced mobility and fires. The significance is not only the destroyed machine, it is the replacement cost, training burden, and ammunition demand. Finally, defense industry targeting. Strikes on UAV, USV, robotic, and cruise missile production and preparation sites disrupt the production to deployment flow. If the enemy cannot replace drones, unmanned boats, and cruise missiles at the required rate, then frontline units will feel the effect days or weeks later. That is how deep strike shapes the close battle.
What about the maritime dimensions? The briefing records hits on patrol vessels, dry cargo ships, tankers, and uncrewed surface vehicles. Why does this matter when the main ground effort is in Donetsk and Zaporozhye?
Maritime attrition constrains sea resupply. The briefing records 2 patrol vessels, 10 dry cargo ships, and 2 tankers hit, along with 2 uncrewed surface vehicles destroyed in the Dnipro sector. From a campaign perspective, sustainment is a system. Material delivered by sea must be unloaded, stored, transported, and delivered forward. If maritime logistics are disrupted, the burden shifts to other lines of communication, which may be less capable or more vulnerable. The destruction of USVs also removes a threat to Russian maritime and coastal assets. Ukrainian forces have used such systems to contest sea lines and port areas. Removing them from the fight reduces that threat. Together with the deep strike campaign against fuel power and transport infrastructure, these maritime strikes make the entire sustainment chain more fragile.
Colonel, as a final question, what is the bottom line from this latest combat briefing?
The bottom line is that Russian forces are executing a multi-axis campaign integrating ground advances, deep infrastructure strikes, air defense interception, and maritime interdiction. The operation is designed to degrade Ukrainian sustainment and combat power before they can be brought to bear on the front. Over the course of 1 reporting week, Russian forces captured Kudievka and Kharkov region, liberated Pershamarievka, Orikovatka, and Nikolaipoli in the Donetsk People's Republic, liberated Andreyevskaya Obshchina, Krasnopodoli, Vodianskoye, and Matishevo in the Donetsk People's Republic, and liberated Rybalskoye, Novosolashino, and Zelenoye in Zaporozhye region. That is settlement-level progress across multiple sectors. At the same time, the deep strike and air defense efforts have degraded production, logistics, long-range fires, and unmanned systems. The force posture indicates no pause. The strategic implication is steady erosion of the enemy Euro's ability to sustain defensive operations.
Thank you, Colonel, for the detailed sector-by-sector assessment.
Thank you.